Why is it that some people don't want to acknowledge that we are Israelites and that we have sinned and have transgressed against the Most High? They rather believe that we're not the people of the book. So let's watch this video clip that I saw on YouTube.
So he shall return Yahweh, he shall return you, Yahweh, to Mitzrayim in ships in a way which I said to you, not again shall you continue, or not you shall repeatedly, or you will not ever.
Sounds confused to me, right? Let's continue.
This is a intensive reflexive verb. In other words, you do it to yourself.
Did he just say you do it to yourself? You do it to yourself. How can you do it to yourself? How can you sell your own self as a slave? That makes no sense at all.
All right. And the last thing that doesn't quite connect is to your enemies for servants and for slave girls, but without a buyer.
You will sell yourself as slaves without a buyer. How can you sell yourself without a buyer? That makes no sense at all. Who would talk like that?
Servitude or bondage or distresses. You know what I'm saying? So he shall return you, Yahweh, distresses. Like Yahweh is going to return distresses upon you. There's two things wrong with that. Number one, he's going to return you distresses in ships. So he's gonna send boats full of distresses to you. Okay.
Boat full of distresses.
This is where in the Masoretic text, in this particular Masoretic text.
The Masoretic text. That's where he went wrong. The Masoretic text.
Yeah, Sean Harris. I think I just went over that, how the Masoretic text has its flaws, but they do notate how they go about correcting those flaws. You know, they make notations. They kind of self-correct.
Did he just say self-correct? Self-correct? Why would you follow something that has to self-correct itself? If it has flaws, then that means it could be wrong, correct? Right? So let's find out a little more about the Masoretic text. Where did it come from? Is it authentic? Is it the oldest Bible version? Let's see. Masoretic text. From Hebrew Mazareth, tradition, Hebrew text of the Jewish Bible. This monument work was begun around the 6th century AD and completed in the 10th by scholars at Talmudic academies in Babylonia and Palestine in effort to reproduce as far as possible the original text of the Hebrew Old Testament. So, as we can see so far, it's not the oldest version. Let's look further. How about the Septuagint? Have you ever heard of the Septuagint? Is that older than the Masoretic text? Let's see. Septuagint, an abbreviation LXX, the earliest extant Greek translation of the Old Testament from the original Hebrew. Analysis of the languages has established that Torah or Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, was translated near the middle of the 3rd century BCE, and that the rest of the Old Testament was translated in the 2nd century BCE. How interesting is that? So the Septuagint is older than the Masoretic text, which the dear beloved brother is quoting from. This is an attempt by the apologetics to use the new translation to say that the slave trade has no connection to the biblical Israelites. Let's look further. The most popular version is called the NIV. For the Old Testament and Standard Hebrew text, the Masoretic text, as published in the latest edition of Biblia Hebraica, has been used throughout. Masoretic text. This is the Masoretic text. Beneath that is the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is what the Septuagint was translated from. See the scrolls? And this is the Septuagint version of the Old Testament and Apocrypha with the English translation and with various readings and critical notes. So let's take a look at the Septuagint to see how the Septuagint translated the same text. Verse 68 says, "And Yah will bring thee back to Egypt in ships, by the way of which I said, thou shalt see it again, and ye shall be sold there to your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and none shall buy you." So we see that the Septuagint, which uses the Dead Sea Scrolls, got it correct, and the Masoretic text muffed it up. Shalom.